Hey everybody, good afternoon. I just finished lunch, which was really hot soup. Although I don't like eating soup when it's still hot outside, but my mom was like, I just bought you those two soups. So whenever my mom mentions, like, oh, you have this or this, like food wise, then I feel obligated to eat it. Um, so I went ahead and decided to eat the soup for lunch. And we can always buy more because, I mean, the closest grocery store is like 5 minutes away, and it's actually where I work. So when they come pick me up, as long as I'm not working too late, they can do grocery shopping or just anytime they can do grocery shopping. Okay, so I decided to film a bit of a little chat video about something that I was thinking about yesterday. Because I was at work yesterday, and a lot of times when I'm outside getting the carts, to distract myself from the heat and the constantly going back and forth, because to get all the carts inside, and how some people will leave the carts like in parking spots or on parked on mediums, and they won't put them back in the corrals, and it drives me crazy because then I end up having to chase after the carts, and it's so exhausting, and I can't there is a rope thing, a pulley thingy that you can use, like a rope that you can, so you can get like 20 carts. But I have dexterity issues, so it's kind of hard for me to handle that thing and to get it off of the carts and everything and to get it on. So I don't like to use it. So I can mostly handle like four at the most, like four, carts to bring them in. And sometimes with the with the little cart, those little smaller ones, I might be able to potentially handle 5 carts. But it's exhausting, and to distract myself from it, I will think about stuff like videos I want to film, or the books I'm reading, or I'll start singing in my head, or I'll sing out loud. Unfortunately, I don't want to get too loud because people are going to look at me funny, and I do care, and I don't want people to start looking at me funny, so. Although I appreciate that I did this job, one of the good things about this job is that I can actually do that. I can sing out loud a little bit. I can sing a little bit out loud. I won't go too loud, I won't go into full-on Broadway performance singing, but because not only would people look at me weirdly, but also, I can't sing anyway. I'm not that great. My sister's the one who inherited the singing gene. But, yeah, that's one of the things that I do like but that I can. Because in the office internship jobs that I've had, not so much with the first internship I had, but the one back in 2015, the summer of 2015 that I had, when I was singing, while I was sitting at my desk, because I didn't have a lot to do, I would have to ask if they had something for me to do, and they don't, as long as I made sure I was being serious and doing something, so I could get away with, writing in a notebook, but I couldn't, listen to my iPod or read a book. I had to actually look like I was working on something, and, sometimes I would just be sitting there and trying to make it look like I was working on something, and then, which that would have been the ample opportunity for me to work on a book, but as usual, I never did. And when I was singing, my neighbor, my cubicle neighbor, was asking, is that you singing? And then she essentially told me to be quiet. And that really bothered me because it was it's what? I cannot stand quiet. I don't like quiet. I can't. That's why I don't like I prefer a bookstore over going to the library. Not just because I can't keep the books, but I can only keep them for a certain amount of time. But also at the library, most of the time at the library, you have to be quiet. You can't talk. You can't, or at least not too loud. You have to be very quiet. With a bookstore, you can talk out loud. They don't expect you to be. There's still a certain quietness, but it's not like they're gonna shush you. They're not gonna tell you to be quiet at a bookstore. And, but with a library, they'll shush you, and that's why I don't like going to libraries often, as I like going to the bookstore, but then the problem with going to bookstores is that I see the books and I want to buy them. But so I didn't like the fact that it was so quiet in the office, but then I got shushed. So, what's basically, long story short, what's great about the store, the store, is that I can actually sing, and they're playing the radio over the loudspeakers, and you can hear the steady hum of all the machines and the the crowds of people and stuff. So there's more noise in, like, when it comes to retail, whether it's a grocery store, a clothing store, or like a place like a hardware store, or Walmart or something. There's noise. I like that there's some kind of noise. I don't like it quiet. I mean, I can deal with being alone and everything, and being quiet, but I just don't like it too quiet. I can't stand it when it's too quiet. Okay, now let's get on to the thing I really actually want to talk about. So, like I said, I will think about things while I'm getting the cards to distract my mind. Sometimes it doesn't really help, because sometimes you're just so tired and hot, you just can't concentrate on anything. You just start thinking, okay, when can I take a break? When's a good time to take a break? Or, oh, my shift, when is it going to be over? Or, when is my hour up and I can go back inside and just get the bags? Because they assign us for like an hour to get the cards. But anyway. So, I was thinking about how book hype. And now, I've always said I've never had a problem with book hype, which this book, with this chat, I'm not saying that I actually do have a problem with hype, because I generally don't have a problem with a book is popular. I am cool with when a book is hyped, because it means that it's good for the author, and it means that there are, even if you don't like it, it means something to someone. And of course, when you're the person who doesn't like it and you're not part of the hype, then I imagine it can be uncomfortable and awkward, and can even annoy you and piss you off when a book is so popular, but like you don't get it. You don't get why it's so popular. Like, you don't like it, or you're just okay about it. And then sometimes a book gets so popular, and this goes for like TV shows and movies, that it gets so popular that people will get on the defensive if you criticize it. But my thing is, it's because of those reasons, then I know to someone does think the book is good. And I think part of the reason why I don't get on the hype, I'm not bothered by the hype, is because a lot of times I end up not getting into the hyped books until later. I'm someone who can look past the hype of a book, and I'm not gonna, even though I've joined BookTube and everything, and BookTube does influence the books that I get now, if it's not something I normally would like, if a particular booktuber hasn't talked about the book enough and explained it succinctly why this book is so great, I'm not necessarily gonna, if it sounds good to me and it sounds like a book I would enjoy, then I will buy it. Or maybe I'll look for it at the library. Of course, books I get at the library are more like books that I'm interested in and I think I might like them, but I'm not like desperate to get them. But I do want to check them out. Sorry, my cold is mostly over, I think, but I guess today it's, actually I think because I ate that soup, I think it woke up my sinuses just a little bit. So I think now that's why all of a sudden it's gotten really bad. But I am, because I was downstairs, my little rascal here decided to take my spot. So he's here behind me. I don't know, I don't think you can see, yeah, you can't really see him in the camera. So the only way you'd see him is if he stood up. Even then, you probably would only see, like, the top of him, or, like, the tip of his tail. But, anyway. So, sometimes I don't get to the popular books until late. So, the hype doesn't really bother me, because I'm not gonna, if it's a contemporary book, especially YA contemporary, I'm not necessarily gonna buy it just because everybody's talking about this book. Like, everyone has been talking about, not Alexander, what is her name? The one who wrote loves, well, that's what the movie's called, the Simon versus the Homo sapiens agenda. I haven't read that one. I have not read any John Green. And those books were his books, and the same thing with Rick Riordan. Although Rick Riordan is a different story because, but I didn't get to, I have not read Simon vs. the Homo sapiens because I'm just not interested. I'm sure it's a great book, and I'm sure it is a book about something that's really important, but I have no interest. I don't want to read, I don't care about reading contemporary. The only time I might read contemporaries, like I've read some adult contemporaries. Like, I'm reading Crazy Rich Asians right now, and I attempted to read Big Little Lies. But the one Becky Albertalli, that's the author's name. The one book of hers that I did read is, what is it called? I can't remember. Dang it, what is that book called? Something Unrequited. Something about the girl who had all the crushes, and she has not told any of her, she's never actually pursued any of her crushes before, and then her sister tries to fix her up, and then she also starts falling for one of her new coworker. I can't remember what it's called. The something Unrequited. The something, I don't remember. It'll pop into my head. Maybe during the video, or maybe when I'm done filming it. But, I gotta finish this because I'm down to, like, on my computer, I'm down to 26%. So I gotta film this. And I want to keep doing it in front of my bookshelf as a background. So anyway, I did not get to that book until later. A year or two later. And it was cute, you know? But those kind of books are not my thing. And the same thing with, and even though now Rick Riordan might potentially be my thing, because it's fantasy, but I just wasn't as interested. You know, I read one of his books, and I don't remember it that well. I don't remember really loving the book. I didn't hate it, but I just was not, like, wow about it. I don't even know if I finished it, because back in elementary school, in middle school, I would get books from the library, but I would never actually finish them. I mean, now, when I get books from the library, I will actually finish them, but particularly so in middle school, I would get them being, like, so proud that I got a chapter book, and then I wouldn't finish it. So it's funny that I was funny that way, but yeah, I don't get to hype books, so I think that's why books being hyped doesn't bother me, and I almost think it's silly to, you know, when you decide, oh, I don't have any interest in a book. I mean, I kind of get it. I get that there's the possibility that what if you think, oh, this book is so popular, so I'm automatically gonna love it because everybody else does, and then you find out, oh, it's just okay, you know, or I hated it, you know, and it's a bit, like, kind of annoying because it's like, everyone else loved it, and it's like, what the hell? How come, is there something wrong with me that I didn't love this book, but everyone else did? Like, it's not always fun being the minority in that kind of thing. Being the one person that doesn't like something. So I think that's what bothers people, is that they're always afraid. They're afraid, and it's understandable, too, you know, that a book's is gonna disappoint them, or they're gonna absolutely hate it because they listen to the hype. And but for me, the hype doesn't bother me. I mean, I'm not gonna get mad about a book being hyped up if I don't like it. Now, there are books that I will, like, get because a booktuber that I absolutely love talked about how great the book is. So maybe you could call that going by hype, but I'm not going by the hype of the whole community. I'm going by the hype of that particular booktuber. Now, there was one, like, Reagan from Peruse Projects talked about Brent Meeks' book, The Black Prism, and maybe this is partly my fault, not just because she, you know, not the hype thing, but the fact that I started the book so late. I didn't get into it right away, and then I had all these other books I was reading, like I was reading one of the Fallen Kingdoms books at the time, so it was like I didn't focus on that one, so I ended up getting rid of it. I actually donated it to the bookstore. So, with that all being said, the thing that I've noticed that I feel my thing is that I have nothing against books being hyped, but my problem is that I don't like getting into a popular book late. I don't want to be just another person jumping on the bandwagon. I mean, I will still do it, like, because, you know, if I really like the book and I'm really, really interested in the book, then yeah, I will still read it. I'm not going to be like, just because it was, you know, just because it already has a following, oh, and I didn't, you know, I'm not going to just be like, oh, I don't want to read it now because it already has a following, you know, which goes with the whole I don't care, hype doesn't bother me as much. But it ends up not being, I feel like I have this thing where I want to be part of that first group. Like, I was part of the first group for Harry Potter, or at least I like to think I was, and I read the Hunger Games series before I ever realized, at least, that it was super popular, that a lot of people enjoyed it. Like, I stumbled upon the Hunger Games because I was staying with my sister that week, and her roommates were doing a book club, and they were reading the Hunger Games, so my sister was like, well, since you're here, if you want to join us, feel free to, you know, go ahead and read the book. So I ended up reading the book and loving it, and I kept going with the series. So it's kind of a sense of pride that I got into it long before it became super popular. So it's not that I have a problem with books being super popular. The problem is I want to be part of that first group of people. And, you know, I feel proud and it feels kind of special. The book will feel special to me. And it's like, if I'm getting into it, which I will still get into it, but if it doesn't feel as anything special or significant to me, and I think it partly has to do with some of my insecurities. I keep trying to look for a book fandom that I kind of, even if there's other people that have read the book, obviously there will be other people that have read it, but it's like something that I introduced to my group of friends. I introduced them to the books. That I was there before. Like, before it was super popular. Like, it's my book, my thing. Because I know all about this book, and you come to me when you want to know about this book. And in my mind, even if it's not the case, there are people that I'm friends with on Facebook that particular book series is like, it's their thing. Like, I associate that book series with them. And I want that for me. I mean, even though I might never know if anyone associates me with a certain book series. And maybe I'm totally wrong about this. And plus, there's probably other people who have gone to the series before those people have. But either way, I want it to be like a book that people associate with me. A book that is my thing. That it's something that people ask me about. What's great is currently, and people take my recommendations for the book. You know, that you guys will take, if I talk about the book, that you'll trust my opinion. I'm actually, the two big fantasy books I'm reading right now are books that, so far, I haven't heard a lot of people talk about them, except for Reagan talked about this series, and how great it is. And I saw this on Elliot Brooks' channel, On Her Shelf. Now, I haven't come across the book come across a video where she's talked about the book, at least from what I remember. I mean, maybe I have, maybe she mentioned it. But it's one of these things where, now that I'm reading these books, I feel like, ooh, maybe these could be the books that could be my books, the books that people trust me with, the books that people associate with me. Of course, the other problem is the people I'm whether they're my real actual friends or people that I know on Facebook that I will talk to and hang out with. Not in person, of course, but sometimes when I talk about these books and mention books in my book groups, no one responds. I have to go to the other group run by a different person who has tons more members in the group than my group. And that's what she told me in the past, that because my groups are so small, so it's kind of hard to get people to get active, which really frustrates me, but that's a whole nother story. But I want these books to be my books that people associate with, books that I will talk about. And people will come to me and associate. And maybe that's selfish of me and weird, but it's just how I feel. I want to be one of those people that, like, is part of the first group of people. Like I was with Harry Potter. So I can feel this and with Hunger Games. So I can feel proud and feel like this is my book. Of course, I moved on from both those books, which is a little sad, but I still love Harry. I still hold, Harry Potter will always be in my heart. And, I'm not getting rid of my copies, my copies of the books. But, like, they're part of that first American editions. They aren't even paper, they're the hardback ones. So they're kind of first editions, I think. Or part of that group that first came out to be sold. But either way, that's what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to admit to that. Maybe I'm weird. I don't know, but maybe it's selfish of me. But it's just something I was thinking about yesterday when I was getting the cards. So are there, so if you are interested in what I had to say and whether, have any thoughts on what I'm talking about here, have any opinions, please be nice. Please feel free to comment in the section below. And if you liked this video, be sure to give a thumbs up and click subscribe if you have not already. And as always, I hope you are enjoying your reading, and I will talk to you all later. Bye!